The desert wind carried more than dust that morning. It carried a whisper, a name long forgotten by most, buried under 16 years of silence and gun smoke. A lone rider appeared on the horizon, his shadow stretching thin across the copper sands. His horse was old, ribs faintly visible, hoofs striking the dry ground with slow, deliberate rhythm. The man's hat was pulled low, face hidden behind a gray beard and a layer of road dust. His coat, once black, was now the color of ash. Around his neck hung a small silver locket, the only thing that shined under the dying sun. As he rode closer to Copper Ridge, the town looked smaller than he remembered. The same crooked saloon sign still hung by a single nail, the same church bell tilted to one side. But the laughter that once filled these streets was gone, replaced by fear and the heavy silence of men who'd made peace with evil. The rider stopped at the edge of town. He dismounted slowly, boots hitting the ground, with a thud that drew a few curious stares. From the porch of the saloon, "Who's that old man?" someone muttered. "Some drifter, probably looking for a drink or a grave," another replied. Spitting into the dust, the rider tied his horse to a post and pushed open the saloon doors. The sound of piano stopped mid-note. Every eye in the room turned to him. He didn't speak, didn't need to. His presence was like a storm crawling over the desert, silent, but promising thunder. Behind the bar stood a man with greasy hair and trembling hands. "What'll it be, stranger?" The old man's eyes lifted, cold, steel gray, cutting through the dim light like a blade. "Whiskey," he said, voice rough as gravel. The bartender poured, hand shaking just enough to spill a drop. The drifter took the glass, but didn't drink. His gaze was fixed on the wall behind the counter, a faded wanted poster, edges curled with age. The name on it read, Victor Kane. He stared at that name for a long moment. The whiskey remained untouched. Then he spoke, quiet but certain. "Still running this town?" The bartender hesitated. "Kane? Yeah, he owns everything now. Mines, sheriff, even the preacher. Nobody crosses him." The old man nodded slowly, eyes darkening. "Guess that's about to change." He dropped a silver coin on the counter, real silver, not the cheap copper everyone used now. The bartender's breath caught. Only one man ever paid with silver in Copper Ridge. The stranger turned toward the door. The room stayed frozen. A collective breath held tight. Someone finally whispered, half in disbelief, "Holy hell, that's Nathan Cole." The name rippled through the saloon like thunder across open plains. The silent rider, the man who once cleared 10 men in 10 seconds, the legend who vanished after his home burned to ash. And now, he was back. As Nathan stepped into the light, the wind rose again, swirling dust around his boots. The bell above the saloon door chimed once, like a funeral toll. The sheriff's office was quiet that morning, too quiet for Copper Ridge sheriff. Doyle sat behind his desk, cleaning his revolver like it was a nervous habit rather than a duty. The sound of metal clicking echoed off the bare wooden walls. When the door creaked open, Doyle looked up. The man standing in the doorway was tall, wrapped in a tattered coat that smelled of desert wind and gunpowder. "Morning," the sheriff muttered, squinting through the light. The stranger didn't answer. He just stepped forward, boots leaving faint prints in the dust-covered floor. "You looking for someone?" Doyle asked, pretending not to recognize. The eyes that once made every outlaw in 3 states tremble. Nathan Cole took off his hat, setting it on the desk with a quiet thud. "I'm looking for Kane." Doyle froze for a heartbeat. "He ain't here," he said too quickly. Nathan tilted his head. "No, but you know where he is." The sheriff swallowed. Sweat gathered at his temple despite the cool air. "You don't understand, Cole. Things changed. Kane's not just a man anymore. He's the law around here. If you cross him, he'll burn this whole town again." Nathan's eyes darkened, not with anger, but memory. The crackle of flames, the screams, the smell of charred wood. 16 years of silence pressed on his chest like a stone. He stepped closer. Then maybe it's time someone burned him instead. Before Doyle could respond, Nathan pulled something from his coat, a small, blackened piece of wood. The sheriff frowned. "What's that?" Nathan set it gently on the desk. "What's left of my home." The silence between them was heavy, sacred even. Nathan turned and started toward the door. "Cole," the sheriff called after him, voice low, almost pleading. "You ain't the same man you were. He's got 25 men, all meaner than the desert itself." Nathan paused at the threshold. The morning light cut across his face, drawing a faint line between shadow and sun. "I only need one bullet for each." And with that, he walked out into the street. The sheriff watched him go, jaw clenched, the weight of guilt pressing harder than ever. On the wall behind him, among old wanted posters, hung a faded sketch of a farmhouse, Kane's doing 16 years ago. Doyle's eyes lingered on it. He holstered his gun and whispered to no one, "God help us all. He's really back." Outside, the wind picked up again, carrying the scent of dust and blood not yet spilled. By dusk, Copper Ridge had started whispering. In the saloon, in the alleys, by the stables, everyone was talking about him. They said the silent rider had returned. They said he came for Kane. And they said hell was coming with him. Kane heard it too. Up in the second-floor balcony of the Golden Spur Hotel, Victor Kane leaned over the railing, cigar smoke curling through the evening air. His once handsome face was older now, lined with years of sin and whiskey. His black coat gleamed like oil in the last light of day. Below, his men drank and laughed, 25 of them, all killers, thieves, and drifters who owed him their lives or their deaths. He smiled thinly. "Nathan Cole, I figured the desert would have buried that ghost long ago." A man beside him, Marcus Sutton, his second in command, shifted uncomfortably. "What do you want me to do, boss?" Kane turned, flicking ash over the rail. "Find him. Watch him, but don't kill him." Marcus frowned. "Don't kill him." Kane's smile widened, sharp as a blade. "No, let him remember what it feels like to lose again." Marcus nodded, though unease lingered in his eyes. He'd heard stories, everyone had. Cole wasn't just a man. He was a myth made of vengeance and perfect aim. Later that night, Marcus rode out under a rising red moon, following faint hoof tracks leading toward the canyon. The wind howled through the cliffs like a warning. He found the remains of a small camp, still warm, a dying fire, a tin cup half full of black coffee, and on a nearby rock, a single bullet. Carved into it were two words: "For Kane." Marcus's blood ran cold. He looked around the silent desert, but there was no sign of Cole, only the faint whisper of wind, and the feeling that he was being watched. He turned his horse sharply and rode back toward town, the bullet clenched in his fist. Behind him, on the ridge, Nathan Cole stood silent in the moonlight, rifle resting against his shoulder. He watched Marcus ride away and didn't move. The hunt had begun. The next morning, Copper Ridge woke to the sound of crows. They circled above the old church, black wings slicing through the pale desert sky. Nathan Cole stood at the edge of town, watching the sunrise burn across the horizon. His horse grazed quietly beside the church fence, its saddle still dusty from the long ride. The air was sharp with the scent of old wood and gun oil. He had spent the night in the bell tower, the highest place in town, where the wind never slept. From there, he watched Kane's men move through the streets, patrolling, drinking, bragging. They were confident, too confident. In the soft light of dawn, Nathan opened his rifle case. Inside, wrapped in an old blanket, was a Winchester 1873, perfectly maintained despite the years. He ran a finger along the barrel, eyes cold and calm. A single church bell hung above him, its rope swaying slightly in the morning draft. He knelt, setting his rifle on the windowsill, scanning the road that led to the sheriff's office. That's when he saw him, one of Kane's riders swaggering through town, spurs clinking with every step. The man laughed, loud and careless, kicking at a stray dog as he passed. Nathan exhaled slowly, his finger resting near the trigger. He didn't fire. Not yet. The church bell tolled once, low, heavy, and haunting. The rider paused, glancing up at the tower. For a heartbeat, their eyes met. Then Nathan disappeared into the shadows. By the time the rider raised his gun, a single shot cracked the silence. He fell face first into the dirt. The echo rolled through Copper Ridge like thunder. People froze mid-step. Windows slammed shut. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Nathan lowered the rifle. He'd left a mark, not on the man, but on the town. A message. The silent rider had begun his work. When the sheriff arrived minutes later, the rider's body was still warm. The bullet had passed clean through his neck. One shot, perfect and final. "God damn it, Cole," Doyle muttered, kneeling beside the corpse. "You just started a war." Up in the tower, Nathan was already gone. The bell swayed gently above the empty platform, ringing once more, its echo stretching across the desert, sound that carried both warning and promise. By afternoon, the heat had turned the streets into shimmering waves of dust. The town moved slow, cautious, waiting for Kane's wrath to fall. Inside the Golden Spur, Kane stood at the center of the room, silent, surrounded by his men. The body of his fallen rider lay stretched out on a table, the bullet hole neat and precise. Marcus Sutton entered, hat in hand, eyes low. "Cole," he said quietly. "It's him?" Kane didn't respond. He just stared at the body. The smoke from his cigar curled lazily upward, cutting through the heavy air. Finally, he spoke. "I told you not to touch him." Marcus's jaw tightened. "We didn't. He came to us." Kane looked up, his smile gone. "No, Marcus. He came for us." He turned to the rest of his men, rough faces, sunburned skin, eyes that hid fear behind arrogance. "Listen close," Kane said. "This isn't some bounty hunter. This is Nathan Cole, the man who made legends afraid to draw. He's not coming for a fight. He's coming for judgment." The room fell silent. One man laughed nervously. "Judgment? Ain't he just another old fool with a rifle?" Before the echo of his words faded, Kane drew and fired. The gunshot slammed through the room. The man dropped dead before he hit the floor. Smoke drifted from Kane's revolver. He holstered it calmly. "Now," he said, voice steady, "anyone else think he's just an old fool?" No one answered. Kane exhaled slowly, flicked his cigar to the ground, and crushed it under his boot. "We find him. We end this before nightfall." Marcus watched his boss in silence, an ease tightening in his chest. Kane was ruthless, but Cole was something else entirely. As the men saddled up, the sky turned the color of brass. Heat shimmered above the horizon. Somewhere beyond the town's edge, a dust cloud moved, slow, deliberate. Nathan was already watching them. From a ridge above Copper Ridge, he stood beside his horse, rifle in hand, hat tilted low. His coat flapped in the dry wind as he whispered, "Come and get me." The setting sun painted him in firelight, a lone figure against the dying day, the beginning of a reckoning 16 years in the making. Copper Ridge simmered under the relentless sun. The streets, empty in the early morning, seemed to hold their breath. Windows rattled faintly in the heat, and every shadow stretched unnaturally long across the wooden planks. Nathan Cole rode into town slowly, horse hooves clacking softly against the boards. He was calm, deliberate, moving like a predator who already knew where his prey would be. From the Golden Spur Hotel balcony, Victor Kane's eyes followed him. He had prepared for this, surrounded himself with his men, yet a cold prickle of unease ran down his spine. Nathan wasn't a man anymore. He was a storm contained in flesh. Cole dismounted near the center of town. Dust swirled around his boots as he walked toward the saloon. Every step was measured, controlled. The townsfolk peeked from behind curtains, fearful eyes glinting. A single gunshot cracked from an alley behind him, hitting a wooden post with a sharp thunk. Dust erupted into the air. Nathan barely flinched. He lifted his hand slightly, brushing invisible dirt from his coat, and continued forward. From the shadows, one of Kane's men appeared, revolver raised, a sneer on his face. Thought we'd scare you off, old man, he spat. Nathan's eyes were steel. A slow, almost imperceptible smile touched his lips. In one fluid motion, his hand moved to his holster. The man never fired a second shot. His body hit the street with a soft thud. A hush fell over the town. Kane's men, stationed behind barrels and doorways, exchanged glances. The game had begun. Nathan moved past them, silent as death, leaving a trail of anticipation in his wake. Every glance he cast, every shadow he touched, carried a threat. He stopped outside a familiar doorway, the barber shop, the same one he had passed as a child, watching his father polish boots, a reminder of what was stolen from him. And there, carved into the wooden doorframe, a single bullet hole, a message left by Kane years ago. Nathan traced the mark lightly, a silent vow echoing in his mind. By late afternoon, Kane had grown impatient. He rode down from the hotel balcony, gun raised, flanked by his most trusted men. Marcus Sutton, his second in command, rode beside him, eyes constantly flicking to the shadows. "Cole," Kane shouted across the street, voice sharp like a whip. "I gave you a warning." Nathan didn't reply. He stood in the heat, the long dust swirling around his boots, eyes locked on Kane. The wind carried the scent of sweat, leather, and gunpowder. A single horse neigh startled, and Kane's men fanned out, circling slowly. It was a trap, but Nathan had anticipated it. Every movement, every glance, was a calculation, a warning to those who underestimated him. The first gunshot echoed from the far alley, Kane's men attempting to draw. Nathan ducked behind the water trough, quick as thought, firing twice. Two men dropped instantly, dust rising in clouds around them. Chaos erupted. The main street became a dance of bullets and dust. Windows shattered, boards splintered. Townsfolk screamed from their homes, ducking under tables and counters. Nathan moved methodically, never wasting a shot. One man tried to flank him from the side. Nathan's rifle cracked, sending him sprawling. Another aimed at the roof. Nathan was already there, appearing from the shadows, his revolver speaking with deadly precision. From the hotel balcony, Kane watched in disbelief. His gang, his pride, fell one by one. His eyes narrowed. He realized the truth he had feared. Cole wasn't here to negotiate, to scare, or to warn. He was here to take everything. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows over the street. Smoke from the gunfire hung thick in the air, making the heat heavier, more suffocating. Nathan lowered his weapons for a moment, surveying the carnage. He wasn't done. Not yet. He needed Kane, only Kane. The wind shifted, carrying a faint, almost imperceptible sound. The bell in the church swaying, ringing softly. A reminder. The reckoning was far from over. And high above, Kane clenched his jaw, knowing that the storm he had tried to control was now walking straight through his door. Copper Ridge trembled with anticipation. The town's wooden streets were empty, sunburnt, and silent, as if even the wind had paused to watch what would come. Nathan Cole moved through the alleys like a shadow, his boots whispering against the dust. Every corner, every broken fence post was a memory of what had been lost 16 years ago. He stopped at the edge of the old mill, crouching behind a stack of weathered barrels. His eyes traced the streets, counting every man, every movement. Kane's gang had been reduced, but the survivors were still dangerous, armed, arrogant, and anticipating Cole's next move. Nathan unpacked a small satchel from his coat. Inside were bullets, carefully cleaned and polished, each one a promise. He set them in a neat row, fingers brushing each round with reverence, and murmured to himself, "Every shot counts, every life balanced against justice." The sun climbed higher, baking the streets and making the heat shimmer like a mirage. Nathan surveyed the Golden Spur Hotel balcony. Kane's silhouette was there, calm and poised, eyes scanning the town. Nathan's gaze hardened. This man had taken everything from him, family, home, and peace. He remembered the nights of fire, the screams of his loved ones, and the bitter taste of helplessness. That memory was no longer a wound. It was fuel. His jaw clenched as he adjusted the grip on his rifle. From the shadows, a faint sound, the subtle shift of a boot step. Nathan froze. The wind carried it across the dust-laden street. A scout, Kane testing his nerve. Nathan's eyes narrowed. He slipped deeper into cover, moving silently, preparing traps, noting every angle. By the time the afternoon sun reached its peak, Nathan had transformed the deserted streets into a deadly maze, each alley, doorway, and barrel strategically mapped in his mind. As he paused to catch his breath, he glanced toward the church steeple. Its bell swayed gently in the wind, casting long shadows across the empty town. A whisper in the breeze seemed to carry his resolve. The storm was coming, and it would leave only the guilty in its wake. By late afternoon, Kane had called his surviving men together. They gathered in the center of town, horses stamping, dust rising in small clouds around them. The tension was tangible, thick enough to choke anyone standing too close. Marcus Sutton approached Kane, lowering his voice. "He's preparing something, boss. We can't just wait here. He knows every corner, every blind spot." Kane's eyes burned with a mix of anger and curiosity. "Then let him prepare," he said calmly. "We'll see if the legend is true, or if he's just an old man chasing ghosts." Meanwhile, Nathan moved like a wraith through the town's back streets. He checked every barricade, every vantage point, every hidden passage. Each step was calculated. He whispered names of men he would face, not with hatred, but with the precision of a man who knew exactly what needed to be done. The sun dipped lower, painting Copper Ridge in molten gold. Shadows stretched and twisted over the streets, making familiar corners look unfamiliar. Nathan paused atop a ridge overlooking the main street. He could see Kane and Marcus conferring below, unaware that the hunter was already watching every motion. For a moment, the world seemed suspended, the dust suspended in the golden light, the wind holding its breath, the town itself frozen in anticipation. Nathan tightened his gloves around his weapons. The calm before the storm was over. In the approaching darkness, only one thing was certain: the reckoning was inevitable. He whispered under his breath, eyes scanning the streets. "Tonight, it ends." And with that, the first tendrils of dusk began to stretch across the town, shadows reaching like fingers, signaling the start of the final confrontation. Dust fell like molten gold over Copper Ridge, painting the streets in fiery shadows. Nathan Cole stood atop the ridge, rifle in hand, ice-cold steel as he watched Kane's remaining men shuffle nervously below. He descended slowly, every step measured, silent as a predator stalking its prey. Dust swirled in the evening wind, carrying the scent of gunpowder, sweat, and fear. From the Golden Spur Hotel balcony, Kane and Marcus Sutton observed. Kane's fingers twitched near his revolver. "This ends tonight," he muttered. Marcus nodded, an ease flickering across his face. The first shot rang out. Nathan's rifle cracked against the stillness. A bullet struck one of Kane's men in the shoulder, spinning him into a barrel. Chaos erupted immediately. Nathan moved with supernatural precision. Every shot, every movement was deliberate. One man tried to flank him through an alley. Nathan's revolver met his chest before he could reach cover. Another aimed from a rooftop. Nathan was already there. Appearing from shadows, his aim deadly. Kane's men fell one by one, their confidence shattered. Dust rose in clouds around them, smoke from gunfire curling in the fiery light. Townsfolk screamed from shuttered windows, but no one dared step into the street. Kane and Marcus exchanged glances. "It's him," Marcus whispered. Kane's jaw tightened, black eyes narrowing. "Then it's time," he growled. Nathan paused at the center of the street. His coat flapped in the wind. In the fading light, he looked at the destruction he had caused, the lives he had spared, and the ones he hadn't. Every strike was precise, calculated, and final. Above, the church bell swayed silently, ringing faintly in the wind. its toll carried across the town like a warning. Nathan whispered almost to himself, "For them?" And then he turned toward the hotel where Kane awaited. The air was thick with smoke and tension. Kane stepped onto the balcony, revolver gleaming in the last rays of sun. Marcus lingered behind, cautious, hands trembling on his guns. Nathan emerged from the shadows, rifle resting at his side, eyes fixed on Kane. No words were exchanged, none were needed. Then it began. Shots rang out, echoing across the empty streets. Kane fired wildly from the balcony, trying to force Nathan into the open. Nathan's movements were fluid, almost ghost-like, bullets sparking off wood and metal as he advanced. Marcus attempted to intervene, rushing toward Nathan through the street. A single, perfectly aimed shot from Nathan's revolver stopped him mid-step, sending him sprawling into the dust, alive but broken. Kane's eyes widened in shock. Nathan approached the hotel, boots crunching on the planks. Kane fired again, but Nathan dodged, rolling beneath the balcony. With one swift motion, he climbed the stairs and met Kane at eye level. Their duel was a dance of shadows and gunfire. Steel flashed, smoke drifted, and every second felt like eternity. Kane fired, missed. Nathan countered, hitting Kane's shoulder. Kane staggered, rage and fear twisting his face. Finally, Nathan aimed one last time. A single shot rang out, precise and final. Kane crumpled, his reign of terror ended. The town was silent. Dust settled over the battlefield. Nathan looked around, surveying the aftermath. The few survivors of Kane's gang were scattered, frightened, and humbled. He spared those who would live to tell the tale. But Marcus was left as a warning, a chance to reflect. Nathan stepped outside the hotel, the sun dipping below the horizon. He mounted his horse, coat flapping in the wind. Before he rode into the distance, he glanced back at Copper Ridge one last time. A whisper of wind carried through the town like a promise. Justice had come, and then he was gone. The streets were empty, the silence deep. Copper Ridge would remember this day forever. Nathan Cole, the silent rider, had returned, delivered vengeance, and vanished into legend, leaving behind a tale that would be told long after the dust settled. The sun set fully, casting long shadows over the town. Evil had been challenged, justice served, and a legend had been born.